What's up, guys?
Happy Friday. You saw me on my phone. You thought I wasn't going to make it in time.
I was about to do it.
You could have done it.
I was about to do it.
I mean, you're going to take the lead today.
It wouldn't have been as good, man. It wouldn't have been as good.
Hey, no, you're good at that. It would have been like an Eli
I would have been like,
here.
hi. Just something wrong with it. Yeah.
No, man, you're a cool kid. Not every homeschooler is like a
it's
nerd.
true.
You're like a cool one, man.
2 years.
We got a good topic today.
Yeah.
Long week, productive week. I don't know what you guys are going through, what weeds you're getting stuck in, or what transitions you're going through, and there's always growing pains, and just stressors, you know. And it's I love that we still do business because, hey man, there's weeks that just piss you and I off.
Yeah, bro. Yeah.
And there's some people this week, man, that just rub me the wrong way.
Yep.
And not because they're bad people. Maybe I don't know them well enough to know whether they're a bad person, so I don't want to speak to their credibility or lack of. So we'll just keep that piece neutral. But bottom line is, man, like, not everything you do in business is fun. And although productive conversations, sometimes just the type of conversation that has to happen, man, it just stinks.
It's true, dude.
It just stinks. So
it's true.
As you guys can tell, I'm smiling a little bit today, but you guys can probably hear a little bit of spice.
Yeah, maybe.
I got a little pepper in my voice.
Yeah.
And it's just me being authentic to the last couple months, and then last couple weeks, and this week in particular, where a lot of decisions had to be made, and we're making some good ones. But the conversations that kind of come with them,
Yeah.
man, sometimes I just look back and I'm just like, man, some of these should have never have even happened. Or
Right.
shouldn't even get to the place where it had to happen. But then they do happen and they're productive. But again, just being in that arena, kind of like, man, I don't even want to say this.
Well,
analogy.
it's a good topic though, because everyone, especially the people listening to this podcast, they are a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners. And if you're doing the things you should be doing as a business owner, you're growing your company. And when you're growing shit, things change, things happen. You know, people promise you certain things or talk about certain things and they don't happen. And there can be some letdowns.
Or just excitement. People get excited, and then there's some whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And I don't want to like say anything like super specific or say names or call anyone out, because it's not a negative thing.
Yeah, and it's not specific to us. This is just in general. You're growing a company, you're in business with anyone, shit's going to happen.
With that being said, today we're going to be talking about stressors. How we're managing those stressors. Are stressors, is it a good thing? Can it be a good thing? Are you bringing stress upon yourself that's just not needed, right? So self-inflicted stress, self-inflicted conflict. I remember being a cop. Things would be going well on a call, maybe a civil dispute, man, and everything is all good, and then another cop would show up, and just his demeanor or his energy would like re-escalate something. So sometimes you can just bring just the self-inflicted wounds, man. It's like sometimes you're your own worst enemy, you know, and I think we're pretty good at not doing that.
Right.
Or we'd have a terrible company. I think we're really good at being the firefighters, man, and just mitigating, you know, as best that we can. But I think, you know, again, with stressors, there's a lot of good that comes with it. We've got a great example. We were talking with Fat this week. We got the Tough Mudder this weekend. So we were going through some transition.
Not running in it, by the way.
What?
Not running in it, by the way.
You said that the other day, and I didn't take it very well, and you're saying it again. I don't know what the fuck you're trying. You trying to get out of it or what? Does he not know, Fat?
Oh, God. Oh, you guys
Signed you up. Yeah, Fat and I got to film it. You're running.
I'll wear my sandals.
Good idea.
I don't have
but we had a good example I want to bring up that we spoke with Fat this week, because we had some stressors preparing for the Tough Mudder, but those stressors were good. They were good key indicators. They allowed us to process some more thought, prepare more, do some recon prior to the event, and then make sure that we're just really ready to go for tomorrow.
Well,
so
let's talk about that a little bit real quick and dive into that. So we're doing the video production for the Tough Mudder event here in Colorado this weekend, and you know, we're going to be using multiple photographers. And for Fat, who runs our video, it was a little bit of extra stress for him to source another photographer, make sure that their quality is where we need it to be to put out a good product, you know, that we're putting our name and our brand on. and he was getting a little stressed about it. And,
no, that's not true. Hold on. That's not true.
Oh, yeah, that's not how it went.
He's being so nice, huh, Fat?
So that's the situation.
No, here's what happened. Fat, I need to give people context, right? Because all of us working together. Yeah. Eli says it all the time, like, oh, working with a guy like it sounds fun to be a guy like that. Or working with a guy like that, not so fun, right? So I kind of placed deliberately, now that we're reviewing, I deliberately placed some stressors on the Fat. Mm-hmm. That were some of my stressors, but I had already had a thought process with it, but I wanted him to have the same thought process. So when going through this Tough Mudder idea, or when we're going through the production of it and how we're going to prepare, we got asked to do a little bit more. We got asked to do a ton of stills, and then we tell the gentleman that's we're working with, that we've got the contract with, hey, yep, but we're gonna have to run and gun with a second camera and be dedicated to that if we actually want some good stuff. And I've got a cousin of mine who does phenomenal work, and he's been super busy, so he wasn't able to come. So I said, Fat, I know you got a bankroll of guys that you've worked before, people that you know, figure out who you like, go through some of their photos or not, and then let's just go through it. And then a couple days later or a day later, I go, hey, so just so you know, man, the owners of this entire thing, these photos are gonna go straight to them. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, okay, cool. And I go, hey, I was like, hey man, I think Fat's looking at me on the camera. That's why he never looks at me. Guys, if you ever see me do this, he's not actually looking at me. He's just looking at me, looking at him.
It's easier that
looking
way.
At me. Yeah. And I go, hey man, just so you know, these photos are gonna go straight to ownership. Mm-hmm. So, and when they were talking to this additional company that wanted to hire some things in, it was outrageous. Mm-hmm. Well, we're already contracted out, and the guy that we're contracted with, I said, hey, I think I can get my guys to do it and be a lot more cost effective. Yeah. So I said, Fat, if we have shitty stills from this event, and then the owners go give it to that marketing company, that national marketing company that wants the material and says, hey, these are shit. You should have used the people we wanted you to use. Hey, we're going to lose that contract and never be welcome back ever again. Mm-hmm. This is a big deal. Everyone's livelihood is kind of dependent on a cold bore shot, right? Mm-hmm. Like the first shot of that rifle, cold bore term. Mm-hmm. And Fat's just kind of looking at me like, yeah. I go, so have you used this guy before? Have you seen his work? He's like looking at his athletic stuff, and has he done anything like this? Does he understand the magnitude? So I start going through a checklist with Fat. Hey man, does he understand the magnitude of what's going on? Do you understand the magnitude of going on? Do you understand how much we have at stake right now for a guy that hasn't cohesively worked with our crew before? Mm-hmm. Do you understand that all of us have a little bit of liability now with this guy? And poor Fat, because we're going through. And by the way, I use a couple of F words, and I go, hey, fucking Fat. Yeah. I fucking hope you don't think I'm fucking mad at you. I'm just fucking thinking this and fucking thinking that. And but I deliberately placed some stress on him to start sparking his thoughts. And he goes, I think we're okay. I think we're going to go. Not good enough. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going out there tomorrow. I'm going to grab this guy up. He's going to come with me. Okay. Mm-hmm. Cool. They go out there. They start reconning the site. Recon, big thing, right? Gets me going, reconnaissance, right? So they go out there to do some reconnaissance. He's chatting with this guy even more. This guy is super stoked. Yep, I understand the magnitude. I've done these things before. Man, I'm super excited for the opportunity. Another plus during recon was more communication and really getting this guy to understand what we're expecting from him. And his level of effort is there. He's ready to go. Cool. So he's excited about the opportunity. While they're out there, Fat's like, hey man, let's run through some photos together and just kind of get a feel for one another. And here's one of my cameras. And I think did the guy bring any of his cameras as well?
No, he did, but he left it in the car.
Got it. Okay. But he's not going to leave his camera in the car on the event though, right?
No.
Okay. I'll kill you. I'll kill you. So he's using Fat's camera, get some photos. So Fat comes back to us and he goes, hey, this guy understands the magnitude. He's super excited for the opportunity. He's prepared for it. He's done things like this before. And while out there on scene, recon in the area, he did some photos. They're awesome. Take a look. He did some really unique angles and scaled some of the photos, and they were awesome. Nice. And in addition to that, we're going over timeline. He's going to get there even earlier than expected to make sure he's prepared. So stressor went from super high, oh crap, Willis like saying some stuff to me, to hey, we're all good. We're no longer negative stress or uncomfortable stress or unknown stress. We're now just good stressors, excited but prepared for the Tough Mudder.
And he went from I think so, he'll do a good job, to all right, I know so.
Well, and Fat's a smart guy, so I'm not gonna, just context on this. Fat's not always barning style. I'm not always walking Fat through stuff, not at all. But for bigger things, and when we're kind of going through some of these processes where there's a lot to think about and a lot to coordinate, I do try to politely throw some stressors toward Fat so his thought process is going. But what's fun is like, hey man, he took that and ran with it and did some recon, and we went over some ideas and he did them, and then he had the control, right, and the success of bringing his own stressors down and feeling a lot more confident about the event versus, excuse my burp, bad podcast. He went from that to controlling that stress level, bringing it down. Now he's got some good stressors, and he's got confidence with understanding how to, like, hey, when you've got some stressors there, and we're not talking about self-inflicted stress, we're not talking about depression. We're not speaking to that entirely, but just understanding, like, when you're feeling those things, okay, it's not necessarily a bad thing. How to process through all of those thoughts, understanding that you can take control of them, and just navigate your way through a process to make sure, hey, now, instead of just rolling the dice and hoping that we're okay and we gamble on, a guy that hasn't worked with us too much, but we've got a lot of expectations that are behind us as far as a team where we're taking all the liability. This guy could come and screw this event off. And the worst thing that could happen to him is we don't use him again, but we could lose a contract, right? So we have a lot of the liability. We're taking on a huge liability. So instead of just rolling the dice and hoping that things go well and carrying that stress into the event, and then everybody being stressed around you because you're just stressed, waiting for the unknown to happen, taking control of that stress, navigating through that process, going through these control measures to make sure that you're as prepared as possible. And then now, like I say, we've got good stressors because we got to make sure we still do a good job. It's not over yet. But a ton more excitement, a ton more preparedness, and a ton more just really good vibe that, hey, we did our due diligence to make sure that we managed that stress, and we took those concerns that were prior and we handled them super well, and like, hey, cool, let's go kick some ass. We've done everything we can do. Now for the fun part, let's go perform.
Well, I love that story because, here's the deal. Emotions are there for a reason, and they're meant to be a tool. They really, really are. And that goes for, anger, sadness, jealousy, or just anxiety. Did I say anxiety already? Anxiety, yeah. So any of those emotions, right? They can definitely be used as a tool if applied correctly. And even just breaking down the word emotion has the word motion in it, right? If used appropriately, you're meant to feel it. And then we don't want to feel like that again, right? Doesn't feel good. So it's meant to cause an action, which is going to help take you to a place where you can avoid that emotion in the future. So with these stresses, instead of just letting it stress you out until the event, and then, potentially the thing you were worried about the whole time happens, and then there's even more negative outcomes from that, which just feeds into more stress, you applied it and took action, which just doing that alone is going to make you feel better and take some of that anxiety or stress away. And then you're going out and you're getting more prepared and you're gaining more knowledge. And now, cool, the stress was felt. It secured a position for us. And now we can go and relax and focus on actually doing a good job with the event.
100%. And this is just one example, right? So when we're talking about stressors, and excuse me if you guys are watching, I've got some notes out here, but that's one form of stressor. This is something where I don't want to call it basic because I'm sure a lot of these big events have even more stressors, but it's very on the surface. An event is coming up. We got to get prepared for it. Like, we know what the stressor is. It's this event. Okay, what's stressing you out about the event? We got a lot of pictures and film and video. Okay. All right, well, what all do we have to do? Let's make a checklist. Okay, and then you start working through it. So this is one aspect. You have a second aspect. I'm sure there's many aspects, but a second aspect that kind of comes to mind is when you can't identify what your stressor is. Like, you're just maybe going through some mild depression, or maybe you're just going through like some things are affecting you, but you can't really pinpoint it. You know what I mean?
Let me give you a lead in here. Okay. So we do accountability meetings with our agents on our team twice a month, right? Every other week, and then training on the other days. But we had someone come in one time to an accountability meeting, and you could just tell they were visibly, yeah, right. The time
you're
I'm
speaking of one time,
yeah, it's every damn time. But he came in the room and was visibly just anxious. I was like, yo, grab a seat, man. And he's like, no, dude, I'll stand. And right then and there, you're like, all right, something's up. And Will addressed it, and his answer was just like you said, man. It's down. But it's like, yo, it's bothering you, man, dude. It's just everything, and he was having a hard time pinpointing it.
I remember what you're speaking about. So
and the next 45 minutes, I shut up and let Will do his thing because it was awesome. We had a great conclusion at the end.
Right. So I'm glad you lead into that. But first thing, so when he came in and he's like, no, man, I'll just stand. No, have a seat. Calm down. Calm your demeanor. Right. Like, hey, let's sit down. Let's do a couple of little things to make ourselves relax. I didn't have the guy meditate or do anything weird. I'm not saying meditating is not a good thing. I don't know. Right. Do what works for you. But we got into that and we said, hey, sit down, relax. All right, cool. So we do real estate. Right. So, but I broke things down into personal, professional, and then you as a sole individual. Right. So personal is like you and your kids and your wife or your family, whoever you live with, just things like that, like your personal life, right? Maybe your girlfriend's bothering you, maybe your friend's bothering you, who knows? But personal life. Yep. And then you've got professional life. Are you doing deals? Are you not doing deals? Are you nervous about open houses? Are you having a hard time with rejection? Whatever it is. And then you as a sole individual, what are you doing? What are you not doing? So long story is short, I guess a long story long, since we're on a podcast format, right? We broke it down into 3 pillars. And then what we did was in each pillar, one at a time, we just wrote every single aspect of that category down.
Important fact here, Will literally had him write it out.
We physically wrote it out.
Yes.
So personal life. What's entailed, and especially when you're not really sure like what the key indicator is as far as sourcing your stress, maybe it's something you don't know. So trying to just write down what's stressing you out, well, if you don't know, then you can't really rule anything out. So the whole process of elimination has to start a lot more broad.
And then as you're writing these points out, what Will was having him do, he was asking a ton of questions. So hypothetically, this wasn't what the guy was going through, but it was like, all right, what's stressing you out at home life? Well, just my family. What about your family? Yeah. There's just so much to do. What specifically? Well, my wife will have me do this, this, and this. Okay, so what is bugging you about having to do those 3 things? Oh, well, I just don't have time. Okay, well.
And it was valid.
It
was like so much stuff like, hey, I just don't have time to dive into real estate. Hey, my wife supports me, but she's also got such a honey-do list that's so just complex or time consuming that I literally just don't have time because by then I got to go pick up kids. And so that category kind of played into both. And, but the bottom line in here, guys, is just, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a doctor. Like I'm just like a big brother to that guy. And it was like, hey, let's just keep reverse engineering. Like, let's just keep diving in. Why? Like, and then we did that. And then we also got to professional.
Yep.
And then we got to personal. Hey, just you solely, right? So not getting your workout in. Like say, hey, what are you doing in this whole sole proprietary inseveralty, we'll call it, right? What are you doing in severalty? Okay. I don't know. Well, what would you like to be doing in severalty? Well, right. Well, what do I do by? Well, what's about you? Like, what are you doing to clear your head? Right. What are you doing with your diet? What are you doing with your water intake? What are you doing with your exercise? What do you do to just let go of stress? I like to drive. I like to just turn off my phone. You don't know where I'm at. You don't know where I'm going. But I'm not killing anyone, right? So,
good thing, yeah.
Right? I'm just like a light green. I'm like this diet green tea over here. You know what I mean? I'm not like nuke green, right? Shit. So it's where's Will? We don't know.
We're talking on a Hulk scale, by the way.
Sorry, the Hulkometer.
Yeah, the Hulkometer.
the Hulkometer.
Yeah.
But just understanding you, like, hey, have you ever just dove into a process where you understand yourself enough? And I guess that's a whole nother topic too, is like, understanding who you are and how you manage stress. Like me, I'm a talker, hence a podcast. I've been talking to Eli about for 3 days about the same thing that bothers me, and he's patient with it. I very rarely do it for that long, but when I do it, I'm also thinking and I'm processing thoughts, and I'm actually like identifying things, and it slowly but surely processes, and it just works its way out of my system like a flu bug. So that helps me. Driving helps me.
Real quick on that. You know what's interesting? So just like I said earlier about an emotion. So you're feeling an emotion and you're taking this,
not ignoring
you're
it.
taking this thing in your head and you're making an action, you're making a motion out of it by talking it out. You're making something that's in your head and you're bringing it into real life.
Yep.
And just by doing that alone, it's processing and it's getting out of your shit.
Right.
It's energy and it's getting out.
And I think it's a good layer for me. And I definitely think communication is key. You know, I know a lot of people, their workout. Yeah, man, I just go release stress and I go throw weights around. And I can't say that doesn't work. I'm not a doctor. What I can say is, like, for me, I can't go to the gym angry.
Me too.
Like, I'm not the guy that's like, man, I'm going to go bench 500 pounds and like throw weight around. And, you know, because for me, like when it comes to at least traditional lifting, there's just a lot of brain power that goes into that and isolation and concentration. And I got no business going in there, and then I'm mad, so I throw around more shit than I should be and hurt myself. And sometimes I'm just distracted. And for me, communicating first helps. So if you do the gym or you go for a run, to clear, like, I'm not saying that it doesn't work. I'm only speaking to myself and what works for me. And I like a little bit of both. I like to go for that drive, process my thoughts, try to narrow some things down for myself, communicate them, speak to someone that I can speak to, and just try to analyze them. It's probably borderline venting / borderline bouncing ideas off. And at that point, I'm good to go to the gym. And kind of like, I'm at least at a stress level low enough. I can operate at the gym. I can operate at work.
Right.
And then I start to just like, almost like I say, man, like a bad flu bug. If the stress gets bad enough, I kind of operate from isolation to through and through. So I think just recognizing how you deal with stress, or if you don't know how to deal with stress, resourcing ways of doing that and just seeing what works for you.
And honestly, like doing the writing your problems down, because when we were talking with that agent at the end of that conversation, he had like 4 little things that he actually had to start doing. And those 4, I mean, it took from this, he couldn't even sit down to, okay, I mean, really, after talking all this, I really just need to do these 4 things, and shit, I can do 2 of them today.
Perspective,
you know, and it just
making things matter of fact, and just being resourceful enough and using people around you that aren't as stressed as you to just help you with the reality behind it. And if it's not like a huge deal, like, let's not make it a huge deal. But so for him, it was just lack of communication and overcommitment on that personal side that affected his professional side, and it stressed him out on the professional side. And then on his sole proprietor, on his inseveralty, we'll call it section. No, like, diet wasn't where it should be. Water intake wasn't where it should be. Amount of exercise wasn't where it should be. And for me, I'm not a good workout when I'm super stressed guy. However, because on a normal basis, I am getting my water intake, my diet is pretty good. I'm at the gym 5 to 6 days a week.
Yeah.
That's preventative maintenance. So
that's true.
Your inseveralty piece, that where you're taking care of yourself, it really allows you to just minimize how much stress is stacking on over time.
Right.
It's almost like every day you go in, you're cashing in. You know, like you're at Dave & Buster's playing video games. Imagine all those games that you're playing at Dave & Buster's and you're winning all those tickets. Imagine all those tickets are little stress tickets. But at the end of the day, or that very next morning when you're waking up, you got to go cash those tickets in and get rid of them. And it really allows you to just carry a super low balance of stress throughout your throughout your days. And what's nice is just always, man, when you're feeling rocked, just getting back and being brilliant at the basics and just realizing I either don't have any core fundamentals or I'm lacking in one of my core fundamentals that's just needed for just good existence day to day. Usually something's a little wobbly, man.
Yeah. And if you guys have, a lot of people have trouble sleeping and they're super tired, and then they go to bed and their brain is just, going in circles. And the writing your problems down, and asking yourself, just like a little kid, ask why about 1,000 things, and it narrows it down, and it makes you start thinking, wow, okay, it is that simple. Do that with your own issues and write that shit down, because here's what happens with our brains. With our brains, when we've got an unsolved problem or an unknown problem in our head. You're
not a doctor.
Right, I'm not a doctor.
What Eli says happens with his brain.
Right.
You like how I catch you?
Yeah, it's nice.
Sorry, guys, you're not suing us.
In case anyone was confused if I was a doctor or not. I'm not a doctor. I know I can kind of.
Yeah, $1 okay? We're not rich. Don't sue us.
And I was gonna make a joke about what PhD after my name meant, but I won't go into that. Our brain is gonna kind of go in loops, right? And if you have this program in your head that's still open, It's trying to solve this problem that we don't have a solution for yet necessarily. So when you physically like write something down, just writing the shit out, even if you don't have a solution, the act of taking what's in your head and putting it on paper, I feel like puts a temporary like Band-Aid on that loop. Not Band-Aid, that's the wrong word, but it stops that loop. It's like it takes it from the thing in your head, it brings it physical, and your brain can kind of chill. So if you're one of those people that does have anxiety and when you're going to sleep and your brain's just going in circles, try writing shit down. More times than not, your brain's going to start being a little more silent after that.
Correct. Definitely I like writing things down as well. Like you say, it'll help silence some of it. Mm-hmm. I also like it because if you got enough going on to where you're having an issue dialing in like that one key indicator of like wherever your stress source is, and it's a little hard, getting in and just writing everything down of like what potentially it is, process of elimination, right? Going through your symptoms. What's up now? You know, what am I doing? Oh, I'm not going to the gym anymore. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. Okay, so maybe not going to the gym could be contributing to your stress, but it might not be your stressor, but that's one of your release points. So now you've got like buildup, you know, so you can kind of like just troubleshoot and go through it. But what I also like is once it's written down, cool, make it real, and then identify, don't just ignore these things, make it real, and then one at a time, right? Just chronologically go through, try to prioritize which ones you think are most important, and then just start tackling them. And if you still don't know after writing it out, but like, man, my water could be better, my sleep could be better, my diet could be better, my exercise could be better. Oh, well, I'm restless. How do I fix sleep? I'm restless. Get your monkey ass to that gym, right? You get in that gym and put in a workout, that's going to help contribute to your sleeping, getting your water. And these are just basic fundamentals that I always fall back on. And when I have a hard time figuring out my stress, oh, it's that. Like when we're going through with fat and we got these stressors that are clearly coming from just an event that we're prepping for. Yeah. That's all good. I've been there before. These are good stressors. We just got to work through this, make sure we're prepared. Reconnaissance and shit like that. Hey, dude, it's how we train in the Marine Corps. It's how you train for combat and how you strategize battlefields and all that stuff. So like, hey, cool, no big deal. But just weeks like we've been having with conversations and negotiations and trying to figure out people's priorities and getting through the weeds, we'll call it, right? Like, man, not very fun. Yeah. And it's like, if you're looking at all of these individually, you're like, no one's overly pissing me off. No one's overly like just doing anything that's just so abrupt. Like, you're just not a good human. Not at all. But it's just these little things from several individuals that just add up through a process. And you're like, man, I just want to get back to playing football, you know, and another football analogy, right? Like, I'm guessing when guys are going to re-sign their contract or they're going for a new contract, you know, or whatever it may be, I bet there's a point where they're like, man, I'm just done with it. Like, everybody's trying to take my money. I don't know what the best, and I'm not saying that's our issue. So just full context here. No one's taking our money. I'm trying to use an analogy here. So if you're trying to read into that, I appreciate it. Eli and I are okay. No one's taking our money. I wouldn't let him anyway. Right. But the analogy of just the negotiations and trying to sell your worth and your value and people placing a value on you. And then, you know, I'm sure athletes at some point are like, man, I'm so glad that's over. I just want to go back to playing ball. Right. And just earning my keep and doing my thing and just getting back to play. So same thing with you and I, like a lot of the business things that we're doing lately and the decisions, you know, that we're having to make and taking those steps forward, super important, super needed conversations that are unavoidable. However, I still like playing ball. Like I still want to be Peyton Manning playing in the game. I don't want to be the front office. I really want you, sir, to be front office and then do your thing and us be able to trust and have some integrity behind it and us, you know, get to the top together. And I'm really glad it's getting there. But boy, is it tough sometimes just trying to figure people out and just go through a process to see where people's loyalties lie, priorities lie, whether they're being truthful or not. And you can only tell so much before you're actually committed and doing it or not. And I think I'm pretty good with it, man. I think I'm pretty good at weeding through that process. But look, man, that's not fun. No. You know, and I consider myself a very honest, direct, great gauge of energy and amount of effort I can put into something type of person. Not everybody is. So even when people are excited about something, it doesn't necessarily mean that like they know what to do with us or which direction to go. And, you know, for me, I kind of explain it like a crotch rocket, like a muscle bike, motorcycle, right? Okay. Like I didn't grow up riding motorcycles, right? Yeah. Like I played ball year round and grew up on muscle cars and just didn't. So, but when I see one, I'm like, man, that's so cool, man. But man, I got no idea what to do with that thing. And if I try, I'm probably going to kill myself. And I think sometimes in business, not to say that we're the shit, not saying that. We still got a long way to go. But sometimes we get to conversations with people where, you know, it sounds like a lot of fun to dive into what we're doing, but then they really see everywhere we're going and everything we're doing and everything that we can scale. And then they're like, oh, holy crap.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I can house that. I don't know if I can this. I don't know if I can that. And you know what? Those are all more than okay conversations and more than okay, you know, things to work through. The hard part is when you get the excitement first and the commitment first, and then you got to like double back. It's such a buzzkill. It's a bummer, you know? And so now you and I are having to not respond to excitement and keep ourselves a little protected and reserved and just kind of like go through and not just really try hard, not in a negative way, but just not give benefit of doubt too soon.
It's that healthy skepticism.
Yeah, a little bit. And man, some of those conversations for the last couple of weeks have just been a little difficult, you know, where people saying they're going to do things and then they don't, but now they are. And you're like, finally, like what else do we got to do to like, right? Like, so again, haven't encountered an evil individual, you know, like haven't encountered a vindictive, just bad person, sociopath. No, there's just a lot of big things going on and everyone has to look out for their business and their benefit. It's just working through that beginning phase and just, and because you and I are growing extremely fast, but we're still somewhat new, we're a little bit more vulnerable to the excitement and we're a little bit more vulnerable to the frustrations when things take a little bit longer than they should.
Especially from experienced
people. A little hypersensitive.
Yeah, especially from experienced people that...
Because you don't expect it.
Right.
And then you realize like, oh, you're just like us. You just been around a little bit longer trying to figure it the hell out.
Which also inspires the hell out of me.
Well, it does.
Yeah.
But again, just we're a little hypersensitive to the excitement. We're a little hypersensitive to things taking... So, and then we've had a pendulum. We've had people with the excitement piece these last couple of weeks. And we've also been, for the last couple of months, had the people taking longer than they should on other piece. So we've kind of been thrown in a couple of different directions and it'll stress you out. Well, and for me, man, like it just hits it. It really hits home for me because like I resonate everything with how prepared Marines are for combat. That's just where I resonate to. It could be to a fault.
When that's your baseline,
it's hard.
Man. Yeah,
and sometimes I try to make it not that, but so it could be to a fault. I'm trying to like desensitize myself a little bit and just understand, like, first and foremost, nobody owes you anything. First and foremost. Secondly, when people are excited or taking a little bit longer, it's just really trying to understand, like, everybody's in this game just trying to figure it the heck out, trying the best that they can to just integrate some things. And sometimes it's going to go good, sometimes it's not. And then, but some of those conversations are rough, and, you know, and it's not like this outward, just negative, you are a bad person. It's, you know what I mean? Like, I just don't want that person in my life. Yeah. No, it's just the stressors of, like, we'll call it like our first big boy business conversations, right? Like these past couple months. And so for me, it's like, it's kind of coming from a couple of different directions, but then that can very quickly bleed into, like, you come home, you're walking around at a 7 out of 10 out of stress, right? And then the baby's crying a little bit, and like he never cries, but that's the one day he's gonna cry. That's kind of messing with you. And then you know your lady says something, and it's completely not offensive, but for some reason you're receiving it differently, right? And I'm not saying that happened because it didn't happen, but I've had it happen before, right? And then you're like, man, am I taking that wrong, or is this person being a jerk? Are they having a bad day? And we usually look at that first. What's wrong with you? Versus like,
well, why?
Okay, maybe she said it a little different, but is it really that big of a deal? And am I taking it different because I'm carrying around a lot more stressors that are just conversations that have to happen? They don't get solved overnight. So some of the stressors you and I have had, we've been carrying it for a couple of weeks because they don't have any conclusion within a 24-hour period. They just take time. So now right? And we're going to talk about this today too. Now you got to get into stress management. Yes. This is not just a garbage disposal of identifying something, go rock out at the gym and then, all right, cool, I'm done. No, some of these stressors are going to carry from day to day to day to day because they take a lot longer. So when you have all that whirlwind going on and then your family can affect you a little bit, other stuff, for me, I'm not saying this has to be for everyone, but for me, when all that stuff is going on, I know my weakness, which is then a strength. I think knowing your weakness is a strength. If I let too much build up, I won't go to the gym because I'm too angry or I'm too stressed and I got to process thought before I go to the gym. Or like today, I'm not hungry. Shut up, bitch. Eat this hot dog anyway, right? Like we're at Costco getting all this food for Tough Mudder and snacks and different stuff. And you're like, hey, man, are you hungry? I was like, nah, I'm good. I'll just take a water. And you're like, what? Like, look at you, you big vanilla gorilla. You're going to have a water, right? So you're just like, yeah, all right, cool, bro. And then we sit down. You're like, here, I got your hot dog. Here, eat it. Oh, okay. Like, thanks, man. Thanks for the hot dog, you know? But just understanding, like, hey, you still, and it was a lean beef hot dog.
Yeah,
let's not get crazy. And it fit my macros. Yeah. So let's not get crazy. But the bottom line is, hey, eat.
Yeah.
Get your water in.
The baseline stuff.
Get that workout in. It's going to suck. If you miss a day, like I missed it, okay, that's fine. However, don't miss tomorrow, like, or go tonight, because if you start sacrificing that, now the stress that you don't have a choice. You got to carry it around. You got to work through these conversations.
Yeah.
You got to work through these business decisions. So those aren't going anywhere. If you start sacrificing what helps mitigate those stress levels, they're going to be tenfold.
Compound interest, man.
Yeah. So you got like, hey, fall back on. So for me, when in doubt and when things like this are going on, I fall back on my fundamentals, and it's always water, diet, gym, and rest. And if I can manage those, usually there's not too much that happens.
Yeah. Because then you know
just conquers.
Then you're not making it worse.
Correct.
And you know what's even worse here, guys? And this is where I think the majority of people are going to fall into this category, and this is a slippery slope, is when you're feeling, stress, anger, anxiety, whatever, people tend to want to get rid of that feeling, not by fixing the problem because people aren't that patient, but by popping a pill, having a drink, smoking some weed, doing something to numb. Yeah, I guess null works too. To nullify or
it's out of
to
my
numb.
vernacular.
Yeah,
sorry.
Good word. To numb that emotion and to numb that pain. Now, here's the problem. This is like your car tires out of alignment, so you just jerk your steering wheel, and it's not your steering wheel is straight, but your tires are still driving all fucking crooked, right? You're just kind of fixing the symptom. You're not addressing the actual issue. So
you're not getting to the source.
Those things actually do start compounding. You stay at the job that you were meant to leave too long. You stay in the relationship you were meant to get out of too long, and then things turn toxic. You slip into depression, and now that's
huge.
It's a real thing, and that's hard to climb out of. So by feeling these emotions and using it to make you take action, it's so critical, guys. And it's hard. You don't want to do it. You want to shut down. You want to numb the pain. You've got to take action and figure it out.
You do. And you got to you have to understand, like when I tell you guys what works for me, that's what I can speak to. I don't want to tell you what to do. But you got to understand, like, okay, is the gym a great release for me, or am I hiding? But just to recap a little bit, right? Just stress, what key indicators those bring, how we're managing those in order to create a thought process, which translates into action, right? So stress, like you're going to feel that, right? You're thinking it, you're feeling it. Cool. What are my key indicators? Okay. And then how can I figure out a process to handle them, which then creates that action, right? And then, another one is that we've spoken about just to kind of review so far is managing it, right? So sometimes it's going to expire, like the thing with Tough Mudder. It went awesome, right? We had a very clear thing that was creating some stressors for us, and it was very clear how to handle it, and then it goes away. But some of these stuff, family, your childhood, whatever it could be, or business, right? And then just long form business where these conversations and decisions they don't get solved overnight. So when that happens, well, I'm going to have a sleepover, right? Like, okay, stress is staying the night, hun.
Yep.
Get ready. I don't know if I got to sleep on the couch because you're going to hate me or whatever it is, but just understanding, and allowing yourself to have, like, still get rest, but your stress try to figure out to just close a chapter. Like, don't solve everything that night. Understand that you're not going to solve everything that night, but just find a way to just come to like at least a stopping point to allow your brain to kind of shut off. I like listening to comedy. Bill Burr's freaking hilarious to me.
It's good.
If you can't laugh from Bill Burr, you're an angry dude.
That's true.
At least for me.
Man, if you're stuck in traffic and you're one of those people that just gets super angry and you're in traffic, get on Pandora, type in Bill Burr. It'll be the best traffic of your life, I promise.
That's another topic. I mean, there's just topics of like, so we're going to get to that in a second, but the self-inflicted stress, right? We're going to get to that. But just to recap, I wanted to make sure we understood like just thinking and like feeling that stress, right? And then understanding like which key indicators are popping up as far as like, where's the source of that, right? And then create that thought process and how to mitigate it, which then leads into your action on taking action to start ridding that stress. Okay. And then we've got how to manage it, right? Manage long form stress.
Yeah.
Right. I've got a couple more here, but let's kind of touch on that. So, every day, if you're walking around at a 6 out of 10 or a 7 out of 10 on the stress level, man, go into that and start figuring out, do I have self-inflicted stress? Like, I don't know, maybe you just don't, I don't like this bitch at the gym. She dresses like a whatever. Okay. None of your business. Okay. Or, man, we come from the fitness world, right? So, man, people work out at the same time, and
it's the same.
One girl dated the same guy as another girl. Neither one of them date the guy anymore, but they still work out at the same time and like just like fuel this like stare off on the Stairmasters and whatever's going on.
You can know the person or have any beef, but for some reason
like,
they rub you the wrong way.
This is my gym, this is my time. She can go somewhere else. Like, well, she's not because she just loves the drama just like you do. So you guys are going to enjoy each other, or like you say, little things that you don't even pick up on with yourself. Like hating traffic, having road rage, just stressing out in traffic and not liking it. Like, well, Eli, I got to drive to work. This is when I work. This is when I get off. What the hell do you want me to do? I don't know, man. Listen to Rain. Listen to Bill Burr. Turn something on, but be resourceful to do all you can as far as
something about it.
Mitigate your self-inflicted stress. Like really dive in and ask yourself like, hey, is that something that's just part of life? Is that business stuff that's just coming upon us because of growth and we just have to deal with it as it comes? Or are there things I'm doing on a day-to-day? Even just people that kind of complain. Like, dude, I complain sometimes. You complain sometimes. Sometimes you and I behind closed doors, we'll joke about some shit, man. But here's the deal. If you don't laugh that off and then get back to work and get back to being proactive, you can very easily. Like you and I have had a couple days back in the day, where it's like, am I being a complainer right now?
Right.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah.
It's funny, but listen, you're kind of a wah-wah today. And then we laugh it off. But here's the point, though. Like, it's important because quicker than you think, right? Like, just complaining, or even if you're just being funny, though, but just complaining about every little thing, even if it's sarcastic and you're making a joke about it, understanding that you're not protecting your thoughts, like that can turn into a pattern to where, hey man,
legitimate.
You're just kind of bitching all the time.
Dude,
right?
I started saying bro as a joke. Yeah. Like that's how it started. I started jokingly saying bro. Now, talk about vernacular. That worked, and I'm like, all right, I'm fucked. I slipped. Yeah. But that can happen with anything that you're doing.
100%. Patterns, right?
Yes,
and just
patterns.
And if you're not protecting your thoughts, it'll just kind of creep in before you know it. So again, like a big thing, because we're going to have stress in life regardless, right? Like you got parents and friends and family and people pass away or people get hurt or people, file for bankruptcy or people just have a career change or whatever it may be. Like a lot of things happen in life, right? Like I think I can speak to some of that a little bit, right? Like humbly, I think I've been through some experiences in life that, I hope nobody ever has to go through ever again. But here's the deal. It's going to happen again. Like as much as I don't wish some of this stuff on anyone, I also understand like there's just evil in this world and people are just going to have to go through some things. And I hope they come out on the other side. I hope they come out on top. But with that being said, like there's enough of that in the world. Like don't add it, like don't hurt yourself, right? Like there's enough stress and enough things to deal with in your life. Don't add to it.
Yeah.
So be very careful and just really mitigate self-inflicted stress. Being a complainer, not liking traffic, but sitting in traffic with Metallica on. Not a good idea. Listen to Rain. Listen to birds. Listen to comedy. Whatever
Listen
it is.
The Day $1 Zero podcast.
Or right when you come home from work, the kid just he's kind of complaining or crying and and like you haven't shut your brain off. Okay, here's the deal. Communicate that with your significant other. Yep. Hey, hon, I know that this is going to put you out for a couple more minutes when I get home. When I get home, can I just hop in the shower? Can I take a shower and just get myself ready for the night? And I know that's going to take me 20 minutes and you're going to have the kid 20 minutes longer than when I get home. But I'm going to be so much more attentive and so much more effective. I'm going to give you the 20 minutes back.
It's a good one.
And like the quality of time I'm spending with my kid, the quality of time I can give to soothing his issue if he's crying or whatever he's doing. And just instead of just complaining to my son, take him over to his little playpen, play with him, play with some blocks with him, entertain him, enjoy him. But maybe I just need that 20-minute shut off.
Yeah.
Okay, hey, here's the deal. Communicate it with your significant other. Have that. That way you can be more effective. So just being as proactive as possible, paying attention as much as you can as possible to these little triggers that honestly are self-inflicted. You have control over them. You're just not communicating them, or you're not thinking through them enough to really source the problem and go, hey, all right, these things, they're just part of life. These things over here, I can actually take control of, and I can rid that stress, or at least minimize it. Like maybe when you come downstairs, son is still a little cranky, maybe, but you're giving yourself like a fresh start versus walking in the door at a 7 out of 10. Like give yourself some of that transition. Or maybe you're like me. Maybe you love traffic. Maybe your transition is your Bill Burr driving in traffic home, and then, oh crap, there's no traffic today. I got home twice as fast. Sit in the damn driveway. Finish that comedy bit, whatever you got to do, and then go through it. And I think, we get so busy in life, we get so busy with our commitments and everything that we're doing, we don't really pay attention to how much of our stress is self-inflicted. And then we're not prepared. We don't have enough ammunition. We don't have enough reservoir to take that stress load of life on, because we're already walking around at like a 6 or 7 out of 10. And then when this thing happens that you can't control, now you're throwing your arms up and you fucking had it and it just started. And it's life, by the way. So doesn't give a shit, man. Doesn't give a crap.
It's true, dude.
You know what I mean? So I think that's important.
As far as stress management, the way I kind of look at it, so if you imagine yourself as a bucket, right? And you've got stressors pouring into this bucket, your family, your finances, your career, all this shit pouring into the bucket, that energy has to go somewhere. So if you don't have enough outlets, enough holes in the bottom of that bucket, you're going to be filling up. Like you said, you're walking around at 7 or 8, and then someone cuts you off in traffic, you lose your shit. Your bucket overflowed. So outlets are something I'm really, really big on. And making sure that you've got, I can't remember where I learned this, but someone pointed this out to me years ago.
So outlets, not escapes. See, and man, so not to cut you off, but just going into protecting your thought process, protecting your words, protecting how you approach things by having outlets that manage stress, not escapes that make you ignore stress. Sounds super small, but it's not, because if you are using something as an escape, you haven't identified your stress and made it real for yourself, which means you're not handling it, which means, look, enjoy your escape, but it's going to, that dark spot's going to be here when you get back, and it's going to be worse. And how long can you escape something before it does get into prescription drugs or just drug abuse or family, emotional or physical abuse, right? So not to cut you off, but I think
that's a great point.
In detail, just that little thing of of how you address it, you know what I mean, versus calling it an escape.
So I'm going to give you guys 3 main outlets here, and I'm going to let you know what I use for these outlets. And then as I'm naming these off, think to yourself, do I have an outlet there? Because having just one of these 3 outlets, I've tried it before, it doesn't work as well. So the 3 are physical, spiritual, and artistic.
He said fat.
Artistic.
So, hold on a minute, man. Hold on a minute.
All right, rabbit trail. Here we go.
Listen, not a rabbit trail. It's super important.
I had a perfect soundbite right there. Now it's all fucked up, and we're not gonna have the clip.
So this is all for marketing.
Feeling stressed, Will.
All right, I'll tell you what. Go back to you're right. Yeah, I apologize.
You're good, bro.
Happy
you're
Friday.
good.
No. You're gonna have the soundbite, and I don't want to break your thought process. I'm sorry. You threw me off with this. We'll get back to it.
That is a good story, though.
So review. So you got.
So your 3 kind of outlets.
No.
Here.
You need your soundbite. So you got to go. When managing stress.
All right. Yeah.
Okay.
So
3, 2, 1.
So when you're managing stress, I like to have 3 outlets here. So physical, spiritual, and artistic. And that last one's kind of the one that throws a lot of people off because you're not really expecting that. So
I didn't.
With physical, obviously it's the gym, right? We go and we both hit the gym a lot, and that's a great
for us.
outlet.
That could be a walk. It could be
whatever. Right, just some sort of physical expenditure. Spiritual, your driving is your spiritual outlet, right? That's not it's a mental, it's a thing, but that so for me it might be meditation or prayer, or never mind. Or, I was gonna say or smoking weed, but then I mentioned that earlier. To
but
numb the
never
pain.
mind.
Well, I mentioned that earlier. Like, don't smoke weed to numb your pain, to numb your stress.
But if it opens your brain and it's spiritual, this is just as an adult. This is where you have to manage your, how you handle your stress and making sure that it's not an escape. I'm not smoking weed to numb the feeling of it.
Yeah,
I'm smoking weed to kind of open my mind and have some clarity and just help. And it helps me chill out.
It helps me meditate.
Handle the conversation.
I can get in the zone better. I get more introspective in a good way.
Me, no.
Right. A lot of people know. Right.
Yeah.
It goes to a bad place, but. Having the physical, having the spiritual, and again, that, like I said, for Will, it's driving. It doesn't have to be.
I like how he says. See, I'm trying to give you a soundbite, but you're like,
I know. I keep going.
I meditate
and then
or pray to the Lord. Will drives a car. What the fuck, dude?
But it's the same thing. It's
and it leads me back to that whole test.
Let me hit one.
And I'm
gonna
hit on it. Hit on it.
But you know what I mean, though. It gets you in tune with yourself. If you're just driving and you're,
it can be a place of peace, a place of clarity.
That's exactly it. Right.
Safe place.
It's kind of a spiritual outlet.
Right.
And then artistic, and this is one that throws a lot of people off because you're like, well, I'm not an artist, but I guarantee there's something that you like to do. Maybe it's writing. Maybe it is something literally,
maybe it's a video
drawing
podcast.
Or painting. For me, it's video editing. For me, that's a very some people may not call it artistic. For me, that's an artistic outlet for me. I get in the zone.
Well, it's creative.
It's creative. Thank you.
Even just long form of you and I talking for an hour and a half and getting things out and filming a podcast.
Yep.
It's the same as, like if, I know Kate, she loves to write. Some of her stuff scared the crap out of me too, man. I still moved forward with her.
Right.
But some of that stuff's great.
Well,
it's dark.
It's surprising, man.
And it wasn't even that she was in a bad place. She just really liked to just write these dark stories, and they were awesome.
Such a good outlet, dude. And that's where most people, and here's what happens if you only rely on one of these things. That's when it becomes an escape. If you're just the gym guy who still is pissed off and you're still angry and you go into the gym, but then you're pissed off on the way home, I guarantee you don't have a spiritual or artistic outlet. And if you did, things would be different. When you're hitting all 3 of these, it's a special place, man.
Something else that comes to mind too, right, is something's got to give. So if you're not managing these, well, then your escape or your abused outlet could be your family. Like you could be super emotionally or physically abusive, and you could be treating people emotionally or physically like a punching bag because you're going through a ton. And it's like we tend to take things out on people that we love or people that are close to us. If we don't have a good grasp on how we handle stress, it tends to just bust at the seams.
It does whatever it can.
Well, here's the deal. Something's got to give. So when that pressure is released, just like a steam pipe that's got pressure and it blows a bolt, or a water pipe, or something floods, it's going to go wherever it goes. Here's the deal. Whoever you're around more is probably more likely to win that lottery, right? They just got more lotto tickets because they're around you more.
Yeah.
And that's your safe place. We tend to be a little bit more complacent sometimes versus caring in our safe place. And a lot of times, again, man, I know I've seen a lot of families go through this when I was a police officer. A lot of physical or emotional abuse because that became that abused outlet due to lack of other resources. And I'm not going to get on the medical level. I know some people just need medical help. We're obviously
100%.
Obvious. Listen, if you think that we're speaking on today, I'm super sorry. I hope that's not what you think. I would hate that you think that of us. Not that I hate you. I would just hate if it's coming off like that. I'd super apologize. We're really trying to talk about just normal levels of stress management day to day for
life,
people
business,
who are considered healthy and they're in a healthy state where they can manage their own stress. However, sometimes that gets the best of us and we make mistakes and we have other outlets. Alcohol, something that's recreational, can be very abusive. We've seen a lot of drug addicts in the fitness world that come from super, super hard drugs, get addicted to steroids, but now they're super fit.
Yep.
And they're at the gym every day and they look incredible. It's still addiction. There's still an abuse there, right? So it's a lot easier for things like that to slide in and kind of take control and have a grasp on you. And it's a lot easier for you to start losing your perspective and your grasp on your day-to-day life than you realize. So again, super important, especially, you know, we have a lot of young listeners. I love that, man. I've been looking at my Instagram and, you know, my top 2 are, you know, 18 to 25 is usually like number 1, and then 25 to 34 is number 2, and then it goes down as it gets older from there. But if you're younger, if you're like in the millennial, you know, generation listening, and I don't know if we have a lot of resources for millennials to understand how to like process some of their stressors. You know, I think there's a lot of things that parents and other people have failed the millennial generation on that we shame them for it. And I don't want to dive into that too far, but I think we're shaming a lot of them, yet we kind of raised them, you know, and the whole, true. And I don't want to get too far because I'm just not educated enough to talk about it. But from what I've seen from my experience on the street now in law enforcement is, no, there's not a lot for them. And it's always been like, well, suck it the heck up. Okay, but we've never really made them suck anything up before, and we've never given a resource, you know, and man, there's just other stressors. Like these kids nowadays growing up with social media from, you know, and now like, I mean, you got kids that are in junior high with Facebooks and Snapchats and other stuff, and like it can be super cool. However, bullying and other stuff, now it's viral, right? Now you're like, you don't get to go home and just be away from it, be with your parents, you know, or when you're at school, like it's not just the cool kids that are making fun of you. Like now the entire school knows you peed your pants or whatever it is because somebody posted it on social media, and it's just, man, I can only, you know, like you and I had enough stress growing up, and I'm sure, and this is no joke to you, I'm sure when you were going from like a homeschool environment to like a school environment, there's some stressors. You know, and imagine if like the one cool kid thought it was funny to make fun of you or pull a trick on you, but then it goes viral on Facebook. Holy crap, you know. And so there's just so much more at scale for kids nowadays, but I don't know if we're providing them enough resources to really understand how to manage and just dive through stress, or if we still have that old school mentality of like, well, you got to suck it up. Okay.
Or it's just
but that's like telling a guy like,
yeah,
hey, you just got to bench press more.
Right.
Hey, you just got to run faster. Look, man, there's a process to putting more weight on the bar.
Exactly.
There's direction and work that goes toward that, and it's hard. And I think there's a lot of direction and effort and work that goes into yourself as far as learning, one, how to manage your own stress and actually work through it and create action. You know, secondly, how to recognize where your faults are at, where you know you're weak, and how to manage those to allow stress not to overtake you. You know, but a lot of us had the pleasure of like not being at scale to kind of know who we are prior to this whole social media epidemic. And, you know, so I do kind of have a soft heart sometimes for the younger generations, because I just don't think many of us can really relate to them. Like I know social media, we're all over it, but I can't relate to my daughter when she's 15 and she better not be on social media, but I can't prevent somebody taking a picture of her in school, getting her hair pulled or something silly, and then a kid posting it, and Chloe doesn't have a Facebook, but her friend just told her, oh, your photo's all over Facebook, and the entire school knows about it. Now they're all laughing at you. Like none of us as adults right now that have kids can really sympathize and speak to that. So we're, you know, the more fundamentally sound we can help our kids, the better, you know? So again, I think these things are super important topics. And I think this is just as important or even more important than the financial topics. We've been talking about that with our team. We've got a buddy that's been educating some of the guys in our networking group on how to be financially savvy and not just managing your money, but how to grow income. No one we've never talked about that. And I think another topic, almost more important topic, is no one really talks about stress management, especially at a younger age. It's suck it up, be tough, or just don't talk about it, don't address it, don't even pretend like it's real. Man, so it's super eye-opening, and this is what's so fun about these podcasts, as we have a couple of key points and we kind of dive into them, but then you just never know where it goes. And you know, we were watching that Joe Rogan bit that you sent me over the weekend or this weekend, and he was talking about how having a kid changes you. Having kids will change your perspective, man, on so much, and the fear that you have for them, yet just just overwhelming want to make sure you do everything you can every day to prepare them for whatever the heck they're going to go through, because you just have no idea to scale what that's going to be in their future. Man, it makes you think about this stuff.
It's an important role,
it makes
dude.
you think about it.
And it's so important. Conversations like this are so important because we don't have it figured out. No one has it figured out. But if we can share a couple of ideas, or maybe you listen to this and you're like, you know what? I do meditate and I do work out, but I don't do anything that's creative, you know, and just that one little thing, which can maybe spark an interest, and you get your easel back out and you start painting again, or you start writing it or something like that. And then you realize how that is just such a good occupier for your brain to get energy out. If that just one little thing can help at all, and then you can pass it along to your children. I love this long form stuff, man.
Yeah. Well, and I do as well. And, you know, not really like a stress thing, but it can be a stress mitigator, like being around good people. Maybe you do want to get back into art. Maybe you do like painting canvases. So once a week or twice a month, you go to some studio where you're going to paint canvases and drink wine or something, but you get to meet a ton of different people.
Right.
And maybe you acquire some new friends, because we talk about self-inflicted stress. The people you surround yourself with are your choice. If you got that friend always talking shit, and it's not because they're a comedian, right? If you got that friend that's just always a complainer, or something's always just going on, like, it's really hard to just, one, not be like them. Secondly, if you're not, it's hard to just manage that type of behavior. So, you know, part of self-inflicted stress is just choosing wisely who you put yourself around. And you and I were talking this week, and I go, hey man, I love these guys. I just don't know if I want to do business with them anymore.
Right.
And I think they're beautiful people, but I think in business, they tend to be like this. And man, that is a letdown every time, and it's getting worse every time. And I want to pull my freaking hair out. Hey, you know what? They're the homie, you know, but I just can't do this with business anymore, because I can't take any more roller coasters.
Yeah.
And I know that they mean well, but I don't think they realize how damaging they are with how they handle business and how much of a letdown it is. So to cap that point, not just in your personal life, but in your professional life, who you're choosing to put yourself around. If you're in corporate America, respect. Your lunch is from 11 to 12, and I go to the fridge and grab my lunch, and Diane is in there every lunch break running her mouth about the deep rock machine not being cold enough. Well, take your lunch later.
Something like a very specific story.
I'm just creating. That's my artistic side. Creating fictitious stories about middle-aged women is my talent.
Diane.
Sorry, Diane.
Yeah.
But man, just owning it and and just understanding you have a lot more control of who you put yourself around, and you realize even in just small moments. You know, so that's a big key. A big piece for me is who you surround yourself with. So maybe you do need to get around some different people, and you take Eli's advice. Man, maybe I should smoke a little weed and paint some shit. Cool. But maybe you go meet some really cool people, and maybe school teachers are there, or maybe an engineer is there, but you're a gym teacher, and you thought you'd have nothing in common, but here you guys are, you know, painting stuff, and it opens you up into a completely different perspective. And I think that's where I get nerdy. Is some of you, you and I, we've got some cool friends, and we've met some really cool people in real estate where you'd think I have nothing in common with them, but then we remember the same exact movies, or we do have something in common, but then it's like, man, that is so cool that we are so different, but yet can have a cool vibe. It just opens your perspective. I think that helped me transitioning out of the Marine Corps, transitioning out of police work, just having different types of friends. And I always had different perspectives on life. I always had different things to look forward to. I never got too narrow in my vision.
Right.
And it was all predicated upon who I was, just like, and it wasn't on purpose all the time. I think I just was always good at it, but just inadvertently, just who I put myself around. Now, maybe that's a strength for me, but now that I've identified it, now that we're in business and we do have stressors and we've got some friends, but in the business world, they mean well, but they're like a damn bull in a china shop with processes, and it's just not healthy there. Okay, like now that you've identified one of your strengths, be a little bit more deliberate with how you approach it, right? But it is cool meeting people that you have nothing in common with, or you would assume that you don't. So I think, to kind of cap on your point there of like doing art or doing whatever it may be, man, it opens up just a different type of social life that you might enjoy.
It does.
I think it's huge.
It does. And there's something in your brain, man, that, you know, that strikes a portion of your brain that just, it's nice when that's stimulated. And the majority of adults, you know, when you look at little kids, man, little kids are intuitive and they do things that are good for you without even knowing it. When you watch a kid do a squat, literally the perfect squat, and a little kid doesn't have to train to do a perfect squat. He just puts his butt down, and he happens to be in perfect anatomical position.
And he's also doing shit.
with other things, guys, you know, when they're upset, they cry, and then they get over it. You know, they see a little color thing, they want to color, they want to stack their little blocks. They naturally will kind of do all these things. And then as we get older, we forget and we stop and we get busy and we neglect the things that we naturally did as a child that I think was good for releasing stress.
Well, yeah. And I think as a child, you just don't care.
Yeah.
You're not in a place where you care about what Susie Q thinks of you. So as you develop and as you get older, you tend to add a lot more self-inflicted stress upon you that can really affect you, man. And I've got one of my last point. Yeah. My last point, and we'll let you cap this podcast if you like. I know we're probably over an hour, which is good time, and we try to keep them right around there. Sometimes they go long, but my other point is to try and address like the pendulum. So we said this in the Marine Corps, training scared. So when I went in the Marine Corps, you know, it was during a time of war. We had 2 foreign wars going on at that time, and especially being a part of the infantry, you know, for those, you know, whether you deployed or not, or you didn't deploy, cool, all good. But what I'm getting at here is prior to that, training scared. You're with your unit, you're going through school of, even just going through school of infantry, knowing that you're going to get to assign a unit and everyone's deploying. So it's just a matter of time. It's not who, right? It's when. We're all going is what you're thinking, you know, and when. And so when you're just school of infantry, and then when you get to your unit and you're doing a workup, you're training scared. Not a bad thing, right? Like having that layer of training scared, it really does allow you to be prepared. Why I want to say this, because some of the things that we went through with FAT this week, right? Hey, a little bit of stress there, a little bit of like, you weren't scared, but a little bit of concern, right? Yes. No one's dying here. I get that, right? Well, as long as we don't mess up.
Well, earlier you said you killed me, so my stress level is all the way up again.
I like how he...
Fat, let's write it down. Grab your notebook.
I like how he's like, this is on Facebook Live. If anyone sees me on the back of a milk carton, look for Will. Yeah, keep laughing, Fat. No, but my thing is, getting back to the point, training is scared. Look, Marines were eager for knowledge. They were eager to listen. They were eager to follow leadership that looked, you know, or appeared or hopefully was competent. I had competent leadership. I had phenomenal leadership in the Marine Corps. But when you're in that element, especially as a younger Marine, man, you're trying to soak up. Guys were staying awake late, training late. If they didn't know something, they'd speak up. Your level of complacency was super low, if at all. There might be times where there was just no complacency versus if they know for a fact they're not deploying or they're not going anywhere, like it's really hard to get those guys, you know, to get those guys going and motivated. So, you know, we talk about how to manage stress and how to identify this and everything else, but I don't want to give the notion that you want to mitigate it so far to the point where you have no stress, because now you can get into that point of complacency, lack of production. Like it is good to have a layer of stress involved, especially for you younger generation that's out there that's listening to this podcast, or our generation, but you guys are entrepreneurs or you're diving into something, or maybe you want a promotion at work and you're working hard to that, whatever your thing is, whatever your gig is that you're doing, please understand you do want to welcome stress. And the better you get at managing your stress and identifying your weaknesses and identifying your key indicator stressors and what's just bad and shouldn't be there, like a bad relationship, and stressors that are good for your career, stressors that are good for your production, like the stuff we've been going through, man. It's all good stressors. Yep. It's not fun.
It's moving us forward.
But just understanding like, hey, we've got a really cool shift coming up. Hey, these conversations are not fun, but they're productive and they're needed for the team and they're needed for business. The better you and I are at managing our stress, communicating that to each other, the better off we're going to be. And I want that to be known. Like, I don't want this podcast, you know, especially now that we're toward the end and we're kind of capping it. I don't want this podcast to be about mastering stress to the point where you have the assumption that it should be gone. It should be ridden. And like, man, I'm just good. I'm just Jimmy Buffett on the beach. It's 5:00 somewhere. Awesome. No, you do want some level of stress. So if you suck at managing stress, no, I'm not saying you should be an entrepreneur and tackle the world right now. What I am saying is maybe you should just learn how to manage the stress you do have. And then the better you get at managing that stress, welcome some more.
Yes.
Because you're going to get productive. And a lot of those stressors can be good. But the bottom line is training or running a company scared, right? With a little bit of that layer, like, I got bills to pay. I got numbers to hit. Or like for you and I, hey, we got, agents to provide for. Having that layer keeps you competent, keeps you prepared, keeps you in the fight.
Yes.
And it prevents complacency, laziness, lack of production, right? So my biggest culminating point to this whole thing was just making sure we don't have the expectation that, well, if I have stress, I haven't managed it. I haven't calculated well enough. And oh my God, no. Like you want that. You want to welcome that. Hey, stress is your new friend.
Yeah.
Right.
Dude, that's
almost
a great
like
point.
Yeah. Yeah. So that, again, a little long-winded. I'm kind of beating a dead horse. I'm kind of repeating myself, but I really want that to be important. And I think Fat, as a young entrepreneur and partner with us, he's getting a lot better at handling me, because I'm sure I'm just a little stressful as it is. Right now, he just laughs at me. I talk to him on the phone all the time. Hey, man, can you send me a photo to edit? Yeah, for sure. And then I go, oh, by the way, I know you're great at editing. I just like messing around. Like maybe that's my artistic side. I like to edit photos sometimes. Yep. But I like for some reason I always tell him, oh, by the way, dude, I know you're gonna get them done. Can you just throw me one or two to mess with and have some fun? He's like, bro, I know you trust me. I get it. So he's already better at working with me and my command presence and just understanding, like, hey, if I ever have a problem with someone, I'm that guy that just comes out and says it. So he knows. If I'm not saying that, he knows. But doing these bigger events, managing Sterling Ranch and going through everything we're doing with that, now they're having a big Tough Mudder there, and oh crap, those photos are important. Yeah, but hey, Fat, you're managing what we're doing so far so well. Hey, you're ready for that next level of stress and thought process. Good. Go recon it. Go meet him. Does he feel lackadaisic? Does he like, oh, I got this in the bag? Or, yeah, man, no, it's cool. I've done freelance before. All good. Maybe not the best behavior if it's from that guy. Nope. But he saw that guy was excited, right? He saw the guy's work from prior to this. The guy met him on time. The guy took cameras while he was on site. They were good photos. So now it's like, Fat was ready for another level of stress to a bigger level of production, which now makes him just a better, more well-rounded dude. So and helpful. I think just like the gym, every time you go to the gym, you're tearing muscle fiber down and it builds back up, and you're tearing it down and it builds back up. I think that's the same a lot with stress, is we're tearing down a process and we're building it back up. And once it builds back up and you're ready for a bigger process, you got to tear that bad boy down and take on more stress and welcome it and manage it. But as you manage it proficient, you're going to come out on top a lot more productive in life, whatever your endeavor may be. So just to be clear, right? Like welcome that and use it as a goal to like not self-inflicted stress just for the sake of having it, but really utilize like the stressors that come with life. Just welcome them and attack them as positively as possible with whatever process works for you. And that's also just dives into parenting. How I managed stress with Chloe when she was young, I'm a lot better at it now. I'm just a better dad. And I think some of this comes down to wisdom. Like, when you say like an old guy or old lady is just wise in their old youth and nothing freaks them out.
Reason.
It's because they're like, or like those, I love old war movies, like Black Hawk Down. When that badass is just, everyone's ducking and he's just not. Because he's just so bad. Look, man, and some of the stuff is probably for movies. I don't want to get into tactics and stuff like that. We're having fun today, but it gives you this like notion while you're watching, like that guy is so locked on. He just knows if a bullet's close enough to hit him or not. And he's just so he's just got the poise. Or like Tom Brady, how calm and cool Tom Brady is in a Super Bowl versus a rookie quarterback. Not the same. And you shouldn't expect them to be the same. But I think if you attack your life in the same manner, where as life kind of throws you some stuff, if you attack it with a great process and you fundamentally work through it and you come out on top, you're just a better, well-rounded dude or woman over time, and it's just nothing bad can come from that. So please welcome some of that stress.
Dude,
don't run from it.
You led into my last point perfectly, because once you get to that stage, once you've been through some shit and you've managed your stress and you've come out on the other side and you're learning these little things and you're taking the hits, you're taking your scars and you're adjusting and you're moving forward, you get to a place to where the word I use is like you just develop this like unwavering faith. And I don't mean that in like a religious way at all. Take it for what it is. But when I say faith, I mean like you get to a point where you're like, you know, I'm going to do everything that I can to prepare and use this necessary stress to make sure I'm set up for the best possible outcome. However, if that outcome is not what I wanted, if something unexpected happens, if somebody, you know, has a tragic accident in your family or somebody gets sick or you're fired from your job, those big stressors that are unexpected that just seem to slap you in the face, you're going to have so much faith that you'll just know at the end of the day, everything's going to be all right. I'm going to get through this. This is going to push me in a direction that maybe I don't like right now. Maybe I don't know where it's going to go, but I know 2, 3, 5 years from now, I'm going to look back and be like, wow, this put me down a road I did not expect, but I love where I'm at.
As long as you put some action behind that. You know, and
yes,
like I fall back on my fundamentals, right? So when I left that fitness company, I start real estate and I'm sleeping in that pantry, you know, I was studying to be a broker and all that stuff, man, and going through my own insecurities and starting over and from, you know, climbing pretty high up and being number 2 there and feeling like we got pretty successful in a short amount of time to sleeping in a pantry next to Fig Newtons and Campbell's soup and all that crap. But here's the deal. I woke up every day. I got to the gym. I studied all day. And while I was studying, I had put good food in me and I was drinking my water. You know, at night, I went and did Lyft at night to just put a couple bucks on the table. You know, my family didn't need it. They make money. They were good, but it made me feel better about what I was doing. And dude, I hated Lyft, right? Like I put myself into a certain level of stress. Okay. Like people didn't treat me ill at Lyft. They just treated me like a Lyft driver. Am I anything special? Dude, it's Saturday night. It's 1 a.m. You're driving, or, you know, like Saturday, right? Like
you're a dude driving a car.
Yeah. And I hated it. I hated not having some type of significance with but here's the deal. Welcoming that level of stress of being a Lyft driver made me wake up the next day, get that damn gym in to get my head right. Study super hard, a bunch of boring content that I didn't want to go through, right? To make sure that I stuck to my goal. It kept me from getting complacent.
Right.
It kept me from getting lazy. And every night I had to go back out there dude, I could not stand it. And then once I got licensed, I literally I went to the gym at 7 a.m. Man, I would get home at like 11. I was doing social media at night when everyone was sleeping and I was grinding. But I got myself to a place of success very early on. But I got there by welcoming a certain level of stress, sleeping in a pantry. Like, yeah, I'm sure I could have stayed at Kate's parents' house, you know, like we'd have been a little bit tight, but no, man, like I slept in a pantry on a twin size mattress that my homie threw on the floor, you know, and driving Lyft again. Like, but what I did know is selling everything off except for one car at that point and just getting rid of everything that I didn't need. Like, look, man, like especially through the Marine Corps, and having stressors there and training for combat and just being prepared and just having the stress of making sure that Marines trusted that they could count on you. Just even that, you know, like I'd been there before. So being in that pantry and then driving Lyft at night, like I knew what the stress level, I knew what being uncomfortable would do for me. It kept my ass on track. It kept my studies on track. It kept me to a deadline and I get it done 10 times quicker than I would have prior. And I think that's so important. So trying to just rid yourself of discomfort or rid yourself of stress, let's not go that far. Understand. And I guess, you know, some of your self-inflicted stress could be good. Like I deliberately put myself in an environment where I was taking on stress.
You're using it as a tool, though. You have control over it.
Very deliberate.
Right.
And I had been there before. So I think it's like this conversation over the last hour is really taking a good turn as far as just the several aspects you can look into stress. One, how convoluted it can get and how out of control it could get. But then secondly, to cap, how phenomenal being uncomfortable and how phenomenal having some adequate stress in your life can really push you to do some outstanding things. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, guys. That's it.
I had to. Fat, we love you. We appreciate your contribution today. For the record, Fat did not die and no Fat was harmed during the filming of this podcast.
See you next week, guys.